was a young boy.
Odin is with us!
Jordan, you know that was at the start of the podcast. Your beautiful singing talents. Thanks everyone for joining to the Assassin's Cast. But damn, we're 52, which means it's 1 year ago that we started, or that we did miss some episodes, or only a few.
Yeah, I think we picked. Didn't we pick it up around April? We should know these things. We should have prepared a little bit more to figure out if this was in fact the exact 1 year mark or not.
I don't think so, because it's like May. Yeah, it could be though. I don't know.
Yeah,
how can we?
that's what I
maybe
mean.
I can look at the files and see when it's created. I'm gonna
Like
maybe do
SoundCloud. Just two boomers trying to figure out how long they've been speaking into microphones.
My mouse does not work. What is going on?
Here, I'll Google it real quick.
Okay, Google. When did Assassin's Cast start?
SoundCloud.
Do I have the first? No, I don't have even the. Okay, I can't find it here. Okay, either way, we've been going for quite a long time now, so thanks for sticking around.
Well, we can say this. Our first review came in May 23rd. How's that?
Okay, so that's around this time. Okay, that's interesting. Because if you're listening to this on Saturday, then it's May 22nd. So it makes even more sense. Of course, we go live every Saturday on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcast. Make sure you follow there so you're notified when a new episode goes live. You can also watch it live, as a lot of you are doing right now. Welcome, chat. Thanks a lot for tuning in every Thursday on twitch.tv/YourRaptor. If you support the show by going to my YouTube channel, JordanDoes, hit the join button next to the subscribe button. For $5 per month, you get 2 days early access, so immediately after we live record it, you can watch the video version on YouTube. If you go for the $2 tier, you get the video version on Saturday, right when the audio version goes live as well. But yeah, if you don't want to support the show financially, no big deal. It's already cool that you listen to us every week and tune in here live. You can leave a review though, like that would really help us out. And you can do that on, for example, Apple Podcast. And I think we got a new review, right, Jordan?
Yeah, we have one from Bayek is the best story since Ezio.
Oh, wow. There are like no space bars whatsoever, but I think you deciphered it. That's nice.
Yeah. Bayek is the best story since Ezio. Wrote in and said, "Yo, hi, Jordan and Jordan. It's nice to have the other Jordan back on the podcast." Wow, thank you. I know this is a big one, and you guys have been streaming the new DLC, so I don't want to open such a big can of worms. Oh, boy. But I can't help but reflect on what the last review said about Warriors Creed, because I didn't catch it at first, but that was a really big piece is that was missing in the game. What about desync when you screwed up a stupid follow-up when you're spying on someone? What happened to the value of stealth in the game? I just walked into a settlement with a I don't give a fuck attitude and on very hard, and everything will be fine. And even further, you started to dig into the comment of two separate games. The only way they are going to be able to incorporate both an homage to the longtime gamers of this franchise and the new direction they want to go is to prioritize if you are seen. If being caught has an effect on the storyline, then that will greatly affect stealth. And maybe true RPG player can help me out with this, but shouldn't that be possible? Anyways, cheers, friends. I enjoy the podcast. I look forward to playing the DLC soon. Thank you so much for your review, Bayek. I think so. To kind of sum up, because that was quite a bit to say, that the value of stealth hasn't been really appreciated, and how can we value the stealth in the game moving forward? Well, I mean, there's a lot packed into there. I have a lot of feelings on why the Assassin's Creed games feel the way they do, and it kind of ties into what we'll talk about a little bit after this about some of the issues going on internally at Ubisoft. But if we're going to kind of just silo, and in my opinion, you can speak up whenever you want, Jor, but I definitely agree that RPG and stealth have a part to play. They can definitely play really well together.
For sure.
And I think it just takes resources, time, and passion and motivation on the leaders to put the effort and resources forward to be able to make a game that does that. But I definitely agree that they are cutting corners in the last few games to try to get them out to launch, and we're kind of seeing that reflected in the gameplay. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I see that as well. I want to say I really hate it that when you would not do play by the rules, you would desync and have to reload. I like the approach from the new games actually way more, where it's like, oh damn, I have the choice to restart my checkpoint if I want, or I can just roll with the punches, maybe do a smoke bomb, whatever, get into the tall grass again, and try and stealth again. I do like that way more, but yeah, overall, the stealth has been quite bad, and I am still gonna say it. Odyssey had the best stealth from the 3 games, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think desyncing like all the time is frustrating. There was a moment though in like Assassin's Creed 3 when you're going through that like British fort where it was really challenging, and you'd get 10 minutes in and you'd desync and snap to the back, and that was pretty frustrating. But when I finished it finally, I felt
Sure.
so accomplished. It was a completely different feeling, but that's what I think part of it is like that's a different game almost. And it's like trying to capture both of those feelings or straddle both sides of this. I think what's happening is they're just using the same IP and they're pushing a new game.
I mean, I
And
was
the
showing
old games that
Alexio's
used,
statue, which shows you enough.
yeah. And I think that yeah, that if you are an old time fan and you are holding out hope for a return to the fold, I think that like that's not likely.
But
With the, I mean, yeah, that's not meant to say there's like doom and gloom, but like you definitely need to like think about um what you like about the new Assassin's Creed games, and if you really want to enjoy them, find out what you do like about them and voice those opinions and
but
stuff.
what I think is actually a way better approach to this, and then you can have both sides win. Is what we're, for example, seeing with the royal demands, where it's like, hey, you are rewarded for remaining undetected, for taking no damage, which is like pro stealth. But if you fail, then you're not like, you can restart your previous checkpoints and try to get more of these rewards. But otherwise, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like, you can just continue and still complete the mission, but just get less of a reward. And I think that's way more exciting. It gives way more of a choice. I mentioned this multiple times in Odyssey, on the podcast already, but I think like one of the early missions in Odyssey, it's like, hey, you gotta do this quiet, and if you don't, there will be enemies waiting for you at the mission giver, while otherwise you would just run up to the mission giver and like, nobody saw me, here you have the item, and you would not have an extra encounter. And I think that's like way more interesting than like forcing players to reload. Or maybe the mastery challenges will be that. Like, who knows? So we of course know that this free game mode is coming. So maybe one of them will be, hey, try to do the stealth. The moment you get detected, it's over. But really, with how Valhalla is, and you kind of touched on that as well, where enemies sometimes detect you when you're like, what the heck? You can't really play around that. So I totally think they can focus way more on the stealth. But yeah, we're seeing that as well with the Wrath of the Druids, where on like the regular camps, I'm always like, okay, I have a royal demand to go stealth, but I'm fighting these druids, which is like super hard to complete.
Yeah,
And
and if the reward isn't like valuable,
sure,
like like the rewards or the extra things in the old games would be like do it without killing anybody, or they would still desync you no matter what, or without being seen ever. But I think it is as simple because let's be honest, like none unless we are very good at the game and we've repeated it several times in past stealth games, you would get caught a lot, but you would have mechanics out there where you could run back into the crowd or sit down
yeah,
or
yeah,
go
yeah.
to a bush and like and be able to clear, and like eventually the guards would be like, all right, something, and they'd go away and you could head back in. So like no one, I don't like it, I always struggled perfectly getting like a stealth playthrough on like Assassin's Creed 3, like from start to finish. Like I'd always kind of bungle it up. But if the mechanics are there to allow you to move quietly, like it is much harder in Valhalla and even sometimes in Odyssey, I think, to try to play that
Yeah,
character
for
that
sure.
way.
And it's one-dimensional. Like, I don't really do
Yeah.
it because after clearing one camp with stealth, I already used all the tools that are available, and you already get most of those tools pretty early on in the game. So after, like, throwing the X for the 5th time, I'm like, yeah, I get it now. And there are just not... And that's why I like the smoke arrow, for example. So that's why I hope we can revert back to that. Because that actually added some extra stealth. So it's kind of sad that that's part of a DLC for people who wanted it in the main game. So I personally think they can really do everything. Like, I think if they really take the time and focus on every different playstyle, which again, I think that Odyssey, sure, it had magical elements, but I think the way you had like a cool assassin build and could kill, like insta kill everyone, the stealth had like way more possibilities in the 3 games. So yeah, we will talk more about the Wrath of the Druids a little later. But yeah, as you see, if you leave a review, hey, it might spark a conversation. So totally do that, of course. It would really, really help us out. Okay, Jordan, do you want to kind of lead this, or should I lead this? Because, yeah, I will just give a short introduction, but you can take it away if you want as well. But, of course, last year around, I think, was it like the summer? Yeah, it was. That's like a really broad... It was around that time where a lot of people started speaking up about the work conditions at Ubisoft. And we, of course, like talked about it. I talked about it on the channel as well. We talked about it extensively on the podcast, where, for example, Ashraf Ismail was caught, cheating on his wife, but also going after people in the Assassin's Creed community, sharing confidential info, and then trying to persuade them a bit and lying to them. That was like one of the things. He stepped down, of course. A lot of other people who are also like front-facing people at Ubisoft, Serge Heskowit was like basically the creative lead. He was like, I think, the leader of like a creative team at Ubisoft. That has since changed, like the creative output, or like how I think games are. Like, he was basically greenlighting games. He could say, hey, I don't like this, cut it. But we also figured out that he just was like a horrible person against other employees at Ubisoft.
Additionally, too, employees were coming out and were reporting harassment to HR in Ubisoft. And a lot of those investigations didn't really lead to any sort of closure for those people or figuring out how to do. So it created very uncomfortable work conditions for developers and people, especially female workers at Ubisoft. And so, yeah. And do you want to keep going there? There was a update to the article. So an article was posted by the French report called
let's give a little more lead in time to where we are right now, because of course Ubisoft announced that they would make changes back in 2020, and it was their whole it was a whole thing around the Ubisoft Forward event, where it was like it was really going on when their E3 presentation was coming up as well. And they made a lot of statements. I listened to all the investor calls for like big game companies, mostly Ubisoft, and every time they would always state, hey, diversity, blah, blah, blah. But one of the big things that was kind of a letdown for a lot of people who really hoped that Ubisoft would take this seriously is that they had this message from Yves where he was like in front of a camera. He said, yeah, this really, we're going to change a lot. We're going to do this and this. But that message could have been in front of their press conference, but they decided to put it on a YouTube as like a separate video right before the show went live, I think. And then they said they would add it to the video, to the stream later on, but they never did. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they ever did. Yeah. So that
No.
was already kind of like, are you taking this seriously or not? Okay, like we are of course outside looking in, right? We don't know. Like we heard these stories, but we also kind of we really enjoy Ubisoft. I know people working there. We hope that they really take this to heart and run with it and make significant changes in the company. And sure, people were let go, and they continuously said, "Yeah, we're making changes here and there." And now, 1 year later, after hearing that a lot of things potentially have changed, again, there have been some changes. We got this French article, so I think that kind of leads it
Mhm.
into what has been
Yeah,
happening this last
it,
week.
it wasn't just like employees too. Like there's a lot of cosplayers who have come out and mentioned how uncomfortable it would be to be around some of the people who work like in leadership, and then on top of it, yeah. Anyways, so we'll move into like the French publication that came out a few days ago from Le Telegram. An investigation published in early May revealed that the first wave of legal proceedings was due to start this month in relation to harassment cases. The collective action is led by I can't some solidarities and for some French company, a game workers union that is trying to defend and protect Ubisoft gaming employees. And they're building a case against Ubisoft currently. Since the wave of accusations targeting Ubisoft's toxic culture pointed at serious dysfunction in their HR departments, the company has attempted to make changes, but the impact of these changes seems to have been minimal so far, the publication has reported. Another thing to keep in mind, so it sounds like they've tried to put things in place. It sounds like through the investigations up till now that it's looking like that it's not as impactful as they're hoping it would be, and that a lot of people are still feeling uncomfortable working in that environment. So they ran an important part that I think us as fans and content creators about this is Ubisoft ran an internal survey last year of their employees, and the survey found that roughly 25% of Ubisoft employees have either experienced or witnessed some form of workplace misconduct over the past 2 years, and that 20% do not feel fully respected or safe in the work environment. Women reporting experiencing, witnessing, and hearing discrimination, harassment, or inappropriate behavior at the rate of 30% higher than men, while non binary employees, it was about 43%. Only 66% of employees who have reported an incident of misconduct felt they had received appropriate levels of support. So there's even people who aren't necessarily being harassed are like witnessing this and they are experiencing and seeing these issues. And so those are really from my perspective, those are like really
Yeah,
high
for
numbers.
sure.
Compare for a multi-billion dollar, this isn't just like for like games, like this is for a lot of different industry and company types. Um, and for me, obviously, the biggest pain point or the frustration is that like you don't, as being a mentor, like recently, but it's been in the works for a little over a year for me. Like I've gotten to know a lot of the community, um, like the people who work at Ubisoft, and there's a lot of awesome people who work on these video games and who work for that company, and it's just really disheartening to kind of see how they don't really speak out, not because they don't want to. I can't speak, that's the thing, is you can't speak for them, but at the same time you can, there's just a lot of heartbreak and frustration because we've loved this game and this franchise for so long, and it's impacting people, it's impacting it's even impacting the quality of the game. Not to discount the victimization at all, like the abuse is the number one issue and needs to be addressed, but it, as fans, like if maybe you're not totally privy on these issues and maybe you're not so sure about what's going on, but the thing you have to understand is this is another reflection on communication issues through the leadership, and it does impact the quality of their games. I think you can see it in the quality of the games that they create, and so this is a pretty big thing, I think, and that we need to really find creative ways where we can support employees at Ubisoft and keep holding their leadership accountable. Even me being a mentor, like we a lot of mentors in our private chat really pressured Ubisoft to respond. They gave us a response that I believe they sent to
Yeah,
the
gamesindustry.biz as well. Can I
yeah, and
jump in a bit before you read that
yeah,
response? Because
go ahead.
to give a better idea of what so what right now seems, and this is really hard because we have this report from this publication, who of course has their sources, but the company is huge. They are obviously saying, "Hey, we're really working on this." I can also imagine that if stuff is like rotten, like at its core, like that, it takes a really long time. It always takes a really long time to move things in an enormous company. So that makes sense. But some things that, for example, this newspaper is reporting that um, that the HR staff who covered the harassment issues like in the past, they are still in their position. So if the person you were supposed to go to for help but did not help you the first time around, and Ubisoft says, "Hey, we're gonna change things," but that person is still there who like dismissed it, then you're not in a better position because I don't think that person is suddenly gonna help you. So there are just some crucial things that that seem to be changed. Like also a person from I don't know, from Ubisoft owned Nadeo, who was accused by dozens employees, is like still like working at Ubisoft. Also, as a Ubisoft Singapore director who stepped down in November, but according to his LinkedIn profile, is also still at Ubisoft. And that's also like the sour taste I had, for example, with Surge. Like we heard so many horrible things that he did. Was he fired? I don't think he was. I think he just left with a ton of money and was like, "Hey, goodbye, guys." And yeah, that sucks. Like
Mhm.
they're not holding these people accountable for
It,
the things
it's
they've done.
also a thing to keep in mind too is that like this is a very the culture of this company has really developed around a family business, and a lot of people have gotten close to that family, the Guillemot family, Yves and them. And so a lot of the people who were accused were close friends to that family, and they got shifted around into other
Yeah, yeah,
positions
yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
the Ubisoft Montreal leader. Like,
yeah,
I think it's
and
also that actually the
Singapore.
son, like, I think Guillemot's son is also like in a leadership position somewhere. So it's
Yeah.
really,
And it's very much one of because it's a private business like
Mhm.
this and it's family owned. It's very um
hard.
the culture is very cultivated over the think about this. We've been playing Assassin's Creed games for well over a decade now, and so if this has been going on without any accountability for over a decade, it's really seeped in to the leadership, and we see it, I think, in the games. We see it in the abuse of the employees, and we see it even in the abuse of star players. There's been cosplayers and star players who have been
Sorry, Jordan.
um,
I have to get
impacted
the
by this.
door real quick, but please continue.
No problem. Yeah. Um, and so to me, it as a content creator, I don't know. I definitely I'm not here to like lecture any of us listening, but as a content creator, if I'm just going to speak for myself, is it drains my passion of being able to want to support them and want to do things like this. But I love the community. I like you guys. I like Jor, and so that's the frustrating part about this. I love this podcast. Is like I want to do this. I want to. Um, I mean, I'm doing it now, but like it, it's something that I think we definitely need to be more vocal about because I think it's going to, if they listen to us and they make good changes, and we uh, help Ubisoft cultivate a better environment for their employees to work, a better quality of life where the employees feel more passionate, they feel comfortable, they're going to be more likely to make better games for us. So when we talk about these things like stealth and the fact that I don't like gear or whatever, like those are things we'd like to see change. But if I don't know, put yourself in a developer's position or a female developer's position where you're trying to make progress in a game or make those changes, and maybe you're limited by resources, or the leadership's telling you, no, we need more microtransactions or something along those lines, and also you don't feel safe
Yeah,
in your
that's the
working
most important thing. I
environment.
think every gaming company is
Yeah.
like, hey, more microtransactions in that. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I totally get it. I think it's so hard because we are like outside looking in. We now have this article. We now have Ubisoft. Did you already read their statement? I think it's kind of fair
Not yet.
to
No,
do that
I can.
before.
So Ubisoft did respond to the mentors. They also sent this to the biz, but they said over a period of several months, Ubisoft has implemented major changes across its organization, internal processes, and procedures in order to guarantee a safe, inclusive, and respectful working environment for all team members. These changes include the following: anonymous reporting tools for misconduct have been implemented, are accessible to all team or community members around the world. Details were previously announced about the platform Wisply, a third-party tool, in addition to internal reporting options. Please note that creating an account on Wisply is anonymous and is for the purpose of allowing reporters to follow their case. The next one is all allegations raised have been thoroughly investigated by independent external experts. A number of these have resulted in disciplinary action, including dismissal. No specifics there, but we have put into place training on appropriate workplace conduct for all of our team members around the world, with more ongoing training programs to come. We have completely revamped our code of conduct and will serve as the cornerstone of our workplace guidelines moving forward. We have appointed Lindwine Sawyer as the head of workplace culture to ensure the longevity of the changes that will have and will continue to be put in place. We have also revamped our HR processes and appointed a new chief people officer, Anika Grant, as well as reinforced diversity and inclusion strategy with appointment of Rashi Sika, our new VP of Global Diversity and Inclusion. These concrete actions demonstrate the profound changes that have taken place at every level of the company. Additional initiatives are underway and are being rolled out over the coming months. Change does take time, but we are committed to strengthening our culture and values in the long term to help ensure that every team member at Ubisoft is heard, respected, and valued in the workplace. So to me, like, yes, that sounds great. Like, I'm glad they're doing those things. But these are a lot of the similar things they said a year ago,
Yeah.
and then a year came around, and the investigations are still revealing that things are happening. So to me, like, this is helpful. Like, we want to like take them at their word and hope that that is the case, but we definitely want to keep following up with this because they have a track record now of it not really seeing it. I understand change does take a while, but they're
I
that
wish
to
more
me
had
that
happened in 1 year. That's my point. Like I
yes,
really
a lot
hoped.
more could happen.
Yeah, I really hope that we would not have been talking about this topic right now. But here we are,
Yeah,
and it's good, and we have to because if one per like Ubisoft is of course going to say that they made the best changes and are moving, and but I wish they would be more reactive, and I get that they are not like super reactive on like rumors and like this newspaper reporting that, but what if they said, yeah, this person that you said that was like from Ubisoft Singapore, his LinkedIn notes that he's still at Ubisoft. No, that's not the case. We fired him. So like it's more upfront about the specific cases noted in the article, because after reading this, sure, it sounds great, but everything that this article notes is still a fact. Like
yeah.
that seems.
Well, also the HR that leadership team they brought in came over from Uber. Now, I Uber has had its own issues with workplace toxicity. So there it's not saying that, like, I'm not saying that those people are immediately going to not be helpful, but when you see a track record like that Ubisoft has, and then they bring in people from another company who has a similar track record,
Yeah, that's
it
not
kind of
good.
does make it makes you question it, and it makes you feel uncomfortable with taking them at their word. as a fan. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I definitely am like glad that they're trying to do stuff, but I would also like I'm not gonna stop paying attention and trying to make sure that this is happening.
Yeah,
Or
that's I
I can't
think
make anything happen, but
no. But we I mean, in a way, they. To be fair, like I thought the response was the same as the game biz. Maybe games industry biz like nuked it down a bit, but there is more in here, I think. So that's at least like they're at least responsive. They're at least like, hey, we know we're here. That's what we are doing. Um, I just hope that this upcoming Ubisoft 40 event they would say about it, but they're not gonna. And and knowing that is already like they're not gonna. And I would love to be proven wrong, but so far we've not seen anything that proves that
yeah,
that would
well,
suggest
and
that.
that's the other thing too is they sent these bullet points in a private Discord and then to the biz article. They didn't post it themselves, so they are obviously dealing with these harassment problems while also prioritizing their PR and their image outside of people who are unaware of what is going on. That's why the more people or the more fans that understand that this is going on will make it put them in more and more of a position to be more public about it. And that will bring more eyes, which will ensure that they're actually making changes. Because the less people, the more we let go and the more we just like let them dominate the PR game when it comes to this, the more likely it will be that it'll be easier for them to make less changes
Yeah,
naturally. And so,
yeah. But to because you said also like about the game quality, and of course like you would also think to look at it a bit like, unless they're like, I mean, every company, the only thing that speaks to them is money. And if they
yeah.
are seeing that the quality of their games is decreasing, and now I'm just like devil's advocate, like maybe
Yeah.
this is how things will hopefully change, and they see, damn, we really have to change something because it's impacting our product, it's impacting the money we rank in each year. Maybe
Hmm.
like that will be a wake up call. And I mean that it's already like Jason Schreier had like a new book about the sustainability of the gaming industry. I haven't read it yet, but I still want to. Press Reset is what it's called. But that's really about how the gaming industry has like a huge issue keeping veteran developers in their studios, because if you wanna like leave a studio, wanna work somewhere else, you likely have to move across country or move to another country to continue the work and go and work in the studio that you want. And maybe that studio gets shut down 1 year after you moved your family there. So that's already hard. So yeah, you would think that they also want to retain talent, right? And one way to do that is the workplace environment. So
Exactly.
hopefully that is like going to, yeah,
It's a
move the needle.
systemic issue that like if you are a fan of Assassin's Creed games, like you're likely going to see less and less quality because I've seen tons and tons of Twitter threads. I follow a lot of gaming developers
I
and
don't think.
a lot a
Sorry,
lot of them, sorry, go ahead.
no, I don't think it's as. We don't know. I think it's hard to
Yeah.
say that this is connected to the quality. And to be fair, looking at the huge game that Valhalla is, sure we have our issues, but them launching that game like they did, sure it
No.
had a ton of issues, but it was not a cyberpunk, and they had a full COVID year, massive open world
Mhm.
RPG, brand new setting. I think they knocked it out of the
Yes.
park if you look at it from that lens, right? There
No,
are
for sure. What I'll be clear and 100% that when I'm talking about the quality of the games, I'm not saying that the workers are not doing or the developers are not doing a good job. What I mean is that they're not being, if you're not, in general, if you're just not being supported at work like that, you're you're likely to see some sort of impact from that is what I'm
Oh,
getting
sure.
at.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're 100% right. But to me, that's still a reflection back on Ubisoft leadership. They give them shortened timelines, larger expectations. They're going to cut corners and cut things out of the game. And you're right. Like they do have really awesome people who still found a way to pull a game out for them. And Valhalla is that. Like they did do some amazing work to get it out the door, considering all the challenges on top of dealing with all these internal issues. So yes, that is impressive. But at the same time, think about if the less they have to worry about all these external things and all these
Oh,
pressures to
sure.
do
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things. The game, like all these things that we request to see in these games, these changes will would help. And that's just like a side effect of the fact that these are people who make these video games and they're being harassed, and it's just not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if they keep sweeping it under the rug or trying to just kind of dismiss it, they're going to keep losing people and hurting people. So like I've seen some Twitter threads or and other communities of previous workers at Ubisoft moving to other studios and being immensely happier with like the work that they're doing and stuff. So that's just a reflection. Yeah, it's just, and it makes it harder, I think, as a content creator. I can't speak for you, but like, yeah, it also makes my passion for trying to like work on this stuff just a little like much harder,
For sure.
significantly harder in my
Yeah.
case. But yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. But yeah, it's still like the develop like it's so like hard. We're outside looking in, and I think what we sometimes know what's going on, but I don't think we have a full picture. And I think we're reacting good about what we know right now. But I would love to hear more from. And sure, I get it's like a difficult situation.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I basically to kind of get like to some conclusion, and then we can talk about the Wrath of the Druids impressions that I had, was the holding the leadership accountable means messaging them, trying to get them to say these changes, not just privately to me as a mentor or other people who are like community leaders, but getting them to admit it and say it even louder at the Ubisoft showcase or on their public Twitter accounts. I know that sounds so like minimal. Like, why does that needs to happen? Because that gets more eyes. The more eyes on it, the more accountability there is to ensure that the things they're saying are actually happening. And then obviously surfacing any additional content. I would also pitch out here, like learning about education in terms of how the gaming industry handles scenarios like this. The Sisterhood podcast, if you don't listen to it, their second episode with Kim Belair. She's a narrative writer who has worked at Ubisoft. She's a whole hour and a half episode where she talks about a lot of these stuff and how we measure success and changes internally in Ubisoft. And so there's a lot of other content outside there also that are like really diving into this subject. So I would, if you're interested in that, you're listening to a podcast now, go listen to the Assassin's Creed Sisterhood one.
Good
also,
one. Yeah.
They've got a lot of cool
wanna-
discussions like this.
I want to react to Rick here. He says only Ubisoft gets praised for releasing a broken game. Till this day, a lot of people still can't finish Valhalla. I don't know if that last part is true. Like, sure, there are a lot of people, or like there are people that still can't finish the game, but I don't think it's like an enormous amount. The point I was making is that, like, they don't get to say, hey, the game is going to launch in November 2020 when the new consoles come out. Those are deals made by the higher-ups to rank in the cash. What I'm saying is that under these circumstances, with that tight deadline, I think, and sure, I would have loved to see the difference, and I still think, like, I don't like Ubisoft's decision for putting the game out when they did, because it clearly wasn't finished, but putting that aside, because the developers had no, like, say in that, I think what they did to get the game there is still like noteworthy. That was my point.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Like as a different side conversation. Yeah, considering all the challenges, the game, and as much as the frustrations and issues there are in Valhalla, they did pull like a decent game out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But
Speaking of that decent game, or I did get a chance to play the DLC. I will be honest, I'll be straightforward because of this. I didn't have the greatest time playing it, but I will hold my critique to just the DLC itself. And even then, I don't think it's very good, Jor. I'm going to be honest. I thought that this was one of the softer, or like one of my more least favorite DLCs that I've played, or one of the weaker DLCs. And the reasons I thought that was is because they wanted a lot more, like that's again another challenge. They wanted a bunch of players early on to be able to play it. So like the suggested power level of like 55 or whatever, you finish one arc and you get to play the DLC. It just kind of, Avor's character felt like kind of clunky being kind of thrusted into that, because they also had different writers writing it. Just, and so the story itself I thought was really cool and I liked it. But I'm not going to say any spoilers, I promise. But
not again. No.
yeah, but not again. But did you know what happens when you kill the final? No, I'm just kidding. The yeah, so the fact that it just, yeah, that kind of dampened the story for me. And then the side content, the only joy I had was that I had something new to play, and that I did like the size and the updates to the weapons, but the side content did still feel kind of like very similar to the main game to me.
Yeah.
Even though fighting the my highlight was just the gameplay fighting like the Druids. Like it literally was kind of like, oh wow, I get a new enemy type I get to play, and like that was like the joy I got out of the DLC personally.
And what you're saying here, so early on in the game, may feel weird for early players. For example, they already revert to Eivor as this like famous person, right? I get that that's strange if you only completed the Granta Bridge story arc or the Let Us Just Shy story arc that is of course needed to get to the DLC. Pretty interesting, because I'm not sure if you saw this, but I helped two Dutch writers with 2 stories inside Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And they're like
that's
2.
cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool project. So, yeah, I was just like because they are like writing other books. They were not like really familiar with the game, so I did like a masterclass, and then they were like, okay, maybe we can do this and this with the game. And one of the stories was also during the Granta Bridge arc. But there it was also like I gave feedback to the writers, like sending in their story, and that was also like, oh no, oh there you have Eivor, the famous this and this, and that was also strange because like at that point Eivor was kind of a nobody, so that kind of reminds me a bit of that. If you are Dutch, you can read those stories, by the way, in the Ubisoft app, but I'm not sure what it's called. Ubisoft. A Ubisoft app. Just search Ubisoft.
I'll
Special
read it
app.
to start learning Dutch. Do you think I could learn Dutch by reading your stories, or is it going to be hard?
I can like read one sentence, and then maybe you can like decide if it's like hard
Okay.
or not. Okay, let me download. I'm downloading the book right now. We're in the future. Can I like? Oh, it's stuck at 50.7 MB. Come on, dudes. Yeah, there we go. How can I like read this?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's really hard for me to kind of like separate it, but to me, yeah, like this DLC again is an under deliver. I feel like this is just such a pivotal year for Ubisoft for what they need to focus on, and hopefully in a year or two when they release like another quality, like another Assassin's Creed game, that I'm hoping that a lot of these things have been addressed and that we will see a lot of the changes both internally at Ubisoft and for the victims there, as well as
Yeah.
the quality of their DLCs and the quality of the main
I mean, the
games.
DLC quality
You know?
have been great. Like Origins was awesome. I think I like the Fate of
Yeah.
Atlantis a lot as well. What it
Yes.
meant for
I
Odyssey
definitely,
and
well, I would argue that I liked Odyssey's DLCs better significantly
yeah, but
than
Legacy of the
Wrath
First
of the
Blade as
Kingdom.
well.
I liked. I know I'm probably in a small contingent here, but I really liked Legacy of the First Blade.
Okay.
I liked the story, even though okay, so the whole forced. Okay, am I?
Yeah,
Can I
no.
tell a
Freaking,
DLC
if
spoiler?
you're listening to this and don't know that Cassandra got a baby, then
Okay, yeah.
it's a
Thank you for spoiling it for me. That whole thing, hard pass. But I liked the character of Darius, and I liked the boss fights. I felt like Legacy of the First Blade. Yeah, it just I think it scratched a lot of itches for me when I played it.
yeah. I get that. But uh, uh, go. What I think with this DLC is the most obvious is that they focused on the things that maybe in the gameplay had the least impact. I think because you say I like Legacy of the First Blade more, but that was in existing areas of Greece. This in a completely new area, and I think they kind of nailed the feeling of. I mean, sure, it still has the problems that every Ubisoft open world still has, and I really wish that they focus on that, where the worlds are just kind of empty and you're just riding from point A to point B with nothing going on, or maybe a wolf attacks you, or there's like on patrol,
Mhm.
and that's it. I think like we've already seen so many games that have done that better, but like these round forts, these new enemies, the abilities that really impact the gameplay and that really kind of fit the Irish, fit the world there. They're cool. The cool mythical boss fights. Like what is interesting is that actually people who are like from Ireland, they love it. Like they really think that it's a great representation of their, of their country, and like it's for them really cool to explore it, and it should be like a really cool recreation. So we don't really have that, obviously, but I do think that they focus so much on that they also were like, okay, but for the mysteries we're just gonna do cairns and altars because we are so focused on making sure this is like historical correct and makes sense for this time period and has a lot of like Celtic and Druidic stuff. So,
Mhm.
and new weapon types, like that's still pretty huge for an Assassin's Creed game to get that after launch. So I'm still happy about that. But
Mhm.
I do get it, right? I think overall the $25 price tag is pretty wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. I especially after waiting 6 months, I totally like expected a bit more. I thought like some of the systems,
Mhm.
like the Dublin trading system, like it just like super uninspired. It's not fun.
Yeah. I
Um,
will say this. Joe McPlays in the chat says, I'm from Ulster. I found it cool because I don't think we've ever been in a video game before, but that's cool. But it's not great content. I will back up and say something positive. I think it was awesome that we had like Ireland as a place to visit. And I think um, the creative team that like made Ireland was like really well done. So like, yeah, like that, like the beauty of Ireland, I think was
yeah.
pretty awesome.
That's what I'm trying to say here. But yeah,
Yeah.
at one point that wears off if you cannot like do fun and new exciting things in Ireland. Like we're not doing a discovery tour where we're actually playing a game, and maybe we
Yeah.
will do a discovery tour there later on. But who knows? So yeah, I totally get what you're coming from. Do you still want to do predictions for something? Yeah, we don't. We both have to think of one at the top of our head.
Maybe we could pause and revisit in a week. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. I will ask. Let's make a prediction like this then. So the Basim outfit is in the game. We know it exists. We already Ubisoft confirmed it's coming. When do you think it will release? And then kind of where we both land on this, and we can do it in like weeks or months, or we can like do it in like at like a specific update.
I'm not sure.
Because to give some more context, like Jose said to me, it's gonna be sooner than you think. But I think they moved it back because that was 2 months ago, and I don't think 2 months later is sooner than you think.
Yeah, I did read some stuff about that. I don't think I know exactly the time frame. I don't want to speak, but if I were to guess, it would have to be pretty soon. I hope that they're not delaying it for like a collectible or some sort of sale, because that would be kind of frustrating to me. But
What do you mean that they would sell it?
yeah, or not sell the outfit, or like pair it with like some other product or something. Maybe.
Oh no, I don't think they will. I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think a good bet. I would agree with Optic Gamer in the chat at the Ubisoft Forward event is going to be my. I'm going to steal that.
Oh wow. That's actually wild because I don't want that. To be fair, like I think it's really smart if they do that. Because but the problem was that it did not work the first time they did something like this. So what if everyone I watched this and I don't get the outfit? But yeah, it will be like a good way for them to let more people watch the event. But that would suggest that Assassin's Creed is going to be at the event. And I'm curious about that. So yeah, I think you're going to steal that one. I think it will be with the mastery challenges. So that you have to complete one mastery challenge or something. Or get the gold medals or something. And then you get the Basim outfit. I hope that that's actually the case. But
cool.
We will see. Any closing thoughts? Where can people find you? I will touch on the subject that we talked about here in a video as well, because my goal overall is to get people up to date on on favorite games that everyone is playing, that we as the JordanDoes team are playing as well, and yeah, that also the less exciting, or I should not say exciting, but I don't want to, I want Ubisoft to be better, but they are not doing better. So it's good to talk about this, and it's good that more people know about this, so they maybe make a more informed, so they know what's going on, because if you only believe Ubisoft, then it's going perfectly fine, and I mean, you can't really blame them to save face, but on the other hand, we hope they would own up to a little bit more than what they're doing now.
Yeah, and my last little piece is that even coming clean and being more outspoken about that, I think will go a long way. I don't want to talk or think about this from a bottom line perspective, because when people are being abused, the money doesn't really matter, in my opinion.
For sure.
But if you want to play that game, the fact that they're doing this, and enough creators and mentors are coming out and really putting pressure on them, and the fact that they still don't say anything, it's going to hurt their bottom line. So they need to come out and they need to really embrace this, besides doing kind of hiding their responses and what they're doing, because it's going to keep making the problem worse and worse, because the more you hide it, the more you and I'm not saying they're directly hiding, but it feels like they are, that the more likely we're going to assume that the same things are going on, and the less likely people will be to purchase your products. And that's going to hurt your bottom line if that's what you care about. But that's not what they should care about. They should care about their employees and their fan base.
But that's of course like an easy way to have companies like change something, right? That's gonna be the main thing. Okay, we're not making money. What can we do to change that? But I already think, because I think like, sure, a lot of people watching right now, videos get a lot of views, but we're still a small part of everyone that plays Ubisoft games, everyone that buys Ubisoft games, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But if every time people, or that, like every time we, like they also want, and I can imagine that the developers also who have been working for so long on this game, and then the discussion isn't about how cool that game is, but yeah, the game is cool, but yeah, look here as well, like it's not going well there at the company, then I think that would also like cause some uproar again, like inside the company, maybe like, dude, we really have to change something because all people like they keep bringing this up, and I think that's gonna be important. And yeah, then we can like hope for the best, but yeah,
it's a bummer, but I guess close because I feel like we could keep going on this, but is just surface more content. Like there's a lot of other smaller content creators out there who are sharing their experiences and their time. There's cosplayers out there who don't necessarily have the viewership that some of us have, and so going in and giving some love and attention to those people in the Assassin's Creed community as well. I've been sharing some examples on my Twitter, so if you want to, this isn't a pitch to follow me for clout. Just if you want to, you don't have to follow. Just check it out. I'll likely be like trying to post some other creators over the next few weeks.
But Jordan, if people want to follow you, I do think some people will. Where do they need to go?
They need to go to the Twitter. It's easier if you can also DM me on Twitter. I've noticed that because of Discord is a lot more intense for me than Twitter is. So if you want to talk to me more about this, you can feel free to message me on Twitter. You're more likely to get a reply to me from me there. It's JordanDoes on the Twitter. The Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, thanks everyone for being in the chat as well. I saw some great input there as well. So thanks. Yeah, this is the end of the Assassin's Creed podcast, Assassin's Cast 52. Of course, again, leave a review. That would really help us out, and maybe you'll be in the next video, and or like in the next show. Tomorrow, Dennis will be streaming. What is he streaming? I don't know. But you
Mass Effect. Everyone's streaming Mass Effect.
No. Dennis is not streaming Mass. I think he's streaming Odyssey again. So yeah, he still needs to finish the Fate of Atlantis. So he's gonna do that.
Oh.
Yep. Okay. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks to mods, of course, for saying Unibear and keeping it civil there in the chat. Yes, we still want the Unibear. Thanks everyone, and goodbye.